Hello, hello, and welcome to Judging by the Cover. Today we are joined by FlamedEzra. Hello, FlamedEzra. How you doing?
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I know it's been a bit since I've been on one of these episodes. Life has been busy.
Absolutely, yeah. We all got stuff that takes up the time, so that definitely gets in there. Today we have Aurion, Legacy of the Kori-Odan. I apologize immediately if I am butchering any of that pronunciation, but I think I got that right phonetically, at least from what it
I would
looks
think
like.
so.
But it
Yeah.
looks like here we have another indie game put together by kiro'o Games and kiro'o Corp. So this time it doesn't seem to have a label attached to it like EA was with Legends of Kanzara, but this one looks like more of an indie game. And from the trailer and the screenshots, it does look like it has quite a bit of classic 2D style, almost beat 'em up kind of gameplay, but with skill progression and everything. I kind of get vibes like Dust and Elysian Tale, which I'd played that one before, but it feels kind of like that as far as the combat and the movement goes. So I do find it pretty interesting how that's going.
Yeah,
Uh,
I haven't played a whole lot of those games, but looking at the like combo style thing, I'm immediately reminded of I think it was Neo Geo Coliseum was the one I played a little bit of, where you had to, like place the combos,
oh
or
yeah,
even TMNT
like
Shredder's Revenge.
it feels very like kind of fighting game kind of setup. Like even just this the little uh the little cinematic shots here with the attack
Yeah.
combos. So it looks like their theming is based on the energy which connects the wills of all human beings. The Aurion only obeys to those with the strongest convictions, and that's why some bloodlines keep on reinforcing their beliefs over several generations in order to control the Aurion and impose their world vision on mankind. Oh, okay. So we're looking at some kind of force-like power structure that basically seems to bend to the will of whoever's strongest, I guess.
I have no
Uh,
idea why, but like I was trying to listen to you speak, and then I had the Steam page pulled up, and it started auto playing stuff. I didn't realize I had
oh.
autoplay on, so I was just hearing it play, and I'm like, "What am I listening to?" And like,
Oh yeah,
"Oh,
the trailer
the
music, which the
trailer
music does
started."
sound pretty good.
It does.
In fact, this month's games that we've been looking at, I've been genuinely impressed by the music direction that they took. Like I would just straight up grab those soundtracks and listen to those.
Yeah,
So let's
I'll
see.
have to go. I'll have to go back and look at the last few episodes I was not a part of and missed out on. So
Oh yeah, no problem. Let's see. So it looks like the combat focuses on paralyzing your enemies with dash attacks before unleashing your skills. Real-time fighting gameplay inspired by the old 2D Tales of games with 20 more features. So aerial combos, real-time magic and skill counter, dashes. You can fight as Enzo and invoke Irene. Okay, so it does have the two characters, but I guess you have like one main playable character. I
doing
did
like a
notice
summon
in the
almost.
trailer. I'm guessing Irene is that other character that pops in. It felt kind of Marvel versus Capcom, where you have like those team attacks, where your other character like pops in to add to your attack combo.
Yeah.
It says it's got more than 50 skills with both aerial and grounded versions, so a lot of ways to chain your attacks together. Link normal attacks to special skills and ultimates. And you got more than 20 Aurionic Awakening. Fuse your basic Aurions to discover new ones in the heat of battle. Oh, okay. So I guess it's got they want to focus on what looks like experimenting with the controls and the combos, trying to chain different attacks together to see what works.
Oh, I'm sorry, real quick. Is that red thing I'm seeing around? Is that gonna
All
show up
right.
product of your video?
We
If
got
you look at
the
the,
Master of the Art, Cairo. Oh, okay. Uh, Karo Argudan. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. I'm pretty sure. Somebody in the comments, please correct me. It's a special martial art which relies on your fighting intelligence. The more you are epic, the more the gameplay will also be. Okay, the wording seems a little interesting here. Like I don't know if it's English as second language wording.
I'm sorry to sidetrack real quick, but the thing I'm seeing in Discord, that red thing around, is that going to show up in the end product too? Around the title?
The what?
On OBS side.
Oh, the
The little thing, is that going to show up in the end thing too? Or am I just seeing things like the?
I think you might just be seeing something.
Okay, it's around the judging by the cover title. That whole like box thing that I'm
Oh
seeing.
no, yeah, that OBS doesn't record that.
Okay, I just want to make sure because we were just talking about it earlier how it would suck to have to like overlay something and then.
No, that's good.
Okay. All right, sorry for the sidetrack there.
Oh yeah, no problem. But let's see. The uh, Argudan gameplay challenges you to master the web of possibilities. Oh, okay. So they're basically using a little visual showcase here. I guess that starts an attack combo. So depending on what kind of button combinations you do, your attacks can chain off in different directions based on this kind of flow chart. So that's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting little display. And
I
it's
wonder if
not the
that's what they were. I wonder if that's the thing they were talking about in the trailer with the 21 transformations. Was this web of possibilities thing?
right where your attacks, depending on what you choose to do, like in that split second, whether you go for whether your combo continues on the ground or if you juggle somebody into the air and then follow up. It does say this is not the kind of game you play in a hurry. If you like mastery without practice, this game might not be for you. Okay, so they are straight up telling you, yeah, you're going to be taking your time to learn these controls.
Yeah. So in other words, anyone who button mashes at Smash probably won't be very good at this game.
Okay, so I feel like I would probably have a hard time with this, but if it's anything like I've been playing a little bit of the Tales of Kenzara. And with that one, like, I've noticed the game has some difficulty in learning the controls and getting everything to work together in both the platforming and the combat sometimes. But it never feels cheap. Like, anytime I fail at something in the game, it feels fair and it feels like I have room to improve. And if this description plays off anything like that, it's probably a very similar thing where if you're not succeeding in the game, experiment and practice a little bit, and then you should be able to make up for that. Yeah. Also, that kind of wording is kind of like, look, if you like Dark Souls games, like, you might enjoy this because you're going to actually have to get good.
Yeah, learn the patterns of both the buttons you're pressing and the attack patterns of the enemy. Yeah.
Right. So let's see, we immerse yourselves in Aurioma. So they're really playing onto the word with the Aurion. So Aurioma, run, jump, and explore 2D world in a retro semi-top-down view. More than 5 major cities with unique traditions and NPCs. Okay, so not only with some action gameplay, but I guess each location has like its own culture and atmosphere to it. So that'll be cool.
It's got some world building. That's good.
We got the forests, caves, giant tree bridges. Collect and buy more than 50 kinds of foods and herbs to heal or power up in combat. Okay, because every game's got to have some kind of a cooking or crafting buff skill to go along, which is not a bad thing. It adds an extra way where it's like if you ignore it, you'll probably struggle a little bit more through the game. But then it gives you something else to experiment with some power ups, which I feel like is pretty good for the modern game. And then a classic JRPG level up system for your heroes. So I guess just fight for experience and power up that way. You get gears for the king and queen, old school overworld map. Wait, old school overworld map. And no random encounters. You can skip battles by not touching enemies. Oh, okay.
Interesting.
So I guess if you feel like the fighting, like you don't need to level grind or anything, you can probably just go ahead and skip over things to get to the next story beat.
Yeah, health doesn't regenerate right after each battle. Maybe it does so you don't get too overwhelmed. Like avoid conflict if necessary or possible.
Audio's coming in kind of quiet. Let me double check.
Mine?
Yeah.
It's probably me because my headset on Discord has been acting up lately. I'm not sure why.
Okay, there it is.
I could always attempt swapping to my better mic as well. This is my headset. I use on my Xbox, not my Yeti.
Okay, yeah. Okay, it's coming in now. I just turned that up a little
Okay.
bit.
All
There
right,
we
that's
go.
good.
Let's see. In Aurion, there's no prophecies, no chosen ones, no temple of the ancients with all the answers, no good versus evil, no angels, no demons. Instead, you have to face 5 tribes bonded by centuries of war, alliances, treasons, and interdependencies.
See,
They're
that part
disco-
is really interesting to me. I like that a lot.
Yeah, like I know in a lot of games there's obviously like a clear hero and villain situation going on. Some modern narratives have gotten more into the way of where like you understand where the villain is coming from, but they are still clearly the villain. But then this one is like, look, that we don't have heroes and villains here. Everybody is like their own nation. So whatever is going on with the combat, that could be an interesting thing to see how it weaves together. How much it actually holds true to that. Whether there's like maybe there is an like a concrete villain that's kind of like orchestrating or something, but if they can weave it in a kind of compelling narrative where it's like no society is the enemy, then that's still a very interesting
More along the lines of, because if you read a little bit further, it says 5 tribes bonded by centuries of war, alliances, treasons, and interdependencies.
right.
Or
Their
dependencies.
traditions, umoja crafting, their beautiful hand-drawn landscapes,
So I wonder if
inspired.
I
Oh
wonder
wow,
I don't think there is even a major big bad. I think it's simply like they're all self-reliant upon each other. That maybe there's some interconnecting conflict that is the problem. And that's what we're going
right. Like
for combat for, to try and settle the score with something.
kind of like how with most countries and most cultures, like we don't really like in the real world, we don't necessarily have. I mean, I guess we kind of have villains, but at the same time, the villain is not a nation or a culture itself. The villain is always like
Some sort of fact.
somebody heading the situation, and then a lot of the times when we do have those kinds of international conflicts and everything, it's because of things getting pushed one way or another in a narrative. And
Or
this one
maybe
pulling from hundreds of tribes and thousands of years of history. So that another kind of situation where looking at the cultural landscape that inspired the game could be an interesting thing. There could be a lot of room for like a tangential education about real world cultures based on the inspirations that came into this.
Yeah, they must have done a lot of research, or just even like having a lot of different people on the team to, like, from different backgrounds to really pull
Right.
this. Because I really don't think they would, do a quick Google search on 200 things and throw together a game. It just doesn't seem right or fair. So from the cultural side of things, they must have had to put a lot of effort into this.
Yeah. And it looks like it also or not comes with, but there's also a series of graphic novels with it. So if anybody's going to go and get this, by all means, check those graphic novels too, because I do like. Oh, we even see in some of the trailer art they showcase that they have those comics out there. I do like seeing the comic arts going, or like comic graphic novels, visual arts has always been something that that fascinated me, the directions and creativity that people display with that.
Yeah. It says dive and discover the Aurion universe with 3 free graphic novels offered. Click on the picture to grab yours, and then click on it doesn't work. Dang.
Yep.
Unless I'm clicking on the wrong picture somehow.
Well,
But
it might be like after a purchase, you have to go through to get those.
oh yeah, it's probably once you get the game. That makes no sense.
But at I mean, $15 is a pretty fair price for an indie game that looks like it actually comes with a fair amount of content, story, combat
Yeah,
customization.
for sure.
The screenshots really do look like they show a lot. Like you get some big attacks. Like oh crap, we got this one that's like a massive light storm hitting an entire group of airborne enemies, showing 14 hits. Like we were saying with the Marvel versus Capcom style of combat, where it shows you your combo hits. And I guess the
Yes.
characters get a little bit of philosophical stuff going on. Freedom is not the free will is not the freedom to choose, as we have always thought. It's the freedom to create rules as living creatures. Okay, there's a interesting little thing. So it's going into different philosophies and thought processes for the cultures.
But
We
yeah.
got a nice whole little equipment screen that looks like it's breaking down all your stats and little buffs in there. This looks kind of like a skill tree or skill wheel that we might see on like some Final Fantasy or Path of Exile game to a smaller scale.
This game also is clearly very geared towards console because just in the screenshots alone, it uses the button layout of
Yeah,
Xbox.
it's very much going to be a controller friendly game, so using
It
a
makes a lot of
mouse and
sense
keyboard
because
would probably not be too
you know,
favorable with this.
yeah, also especially with the whole combo themed fighting, combo themed combat. Gosh, that was hard to say. Because like you have to press all the right stuff. It's definitely gonna be probably more geared towards controller to begin with, because it just
Yep.
feels like a very controller heavy thing. Not saying it's impossible to do on keyboard and mouse, but it's probably gonna be a lot easier on a controller.
Right. I will say the only screenshot I'm not such a big fan of, the one here that shows like the world. I guess this is the world map, the overworld map, where you
Yeah.
go to your different locales. I feel it looks like from the other screenshots that make it look like it could have been a kind of Metroidvania traversal. Um, this kind of level selection, like it I don't know, it looks kind of out of place. Like a kind of
A
Super
little.
Mario World kind of thing when you had
I,
that like Marvel versus Capcom look to the combat and action screens.
yeah, honestly, I would have been. I honestly am a little thrown off by it too. I feel like it would fit better if it was a hexagon style map or even a Mario level map almost, where like it is linear, but there is some range of free will with it of
Right.
where direction you're going. This feels a little open
I don't
and
know. I just feel
confusing.
like this one screen here, like it feels like a mobile game map almost. Like this
Yeah.
like from where the rest of the game looks, it looks like this spot like the overworld map is where the budget was cut. But everything else looks absolutely gorgeous. The environments, the characters, the attack animations and everything. Heck, just this campfire scene is alone like a nice little situation where it looks like it winds everything down for a minute.
Oh man, is that the saving point? They're gonna do the classic campfire saving point thing. It's
That
more of
would
a
be
Souls
interesting.
game though. I think that's more for Souls games. I don't know if that's gonna be a fighting style thing.
And I have to wonder, like with what looks like the story moments here, how drunk do these characters look?
I mean, there's only one with two of them sharing a drink. It looks like. So
Yep.
how much? And saying how much does Matengo cost here? Again, I'm probably botching that word too, but oh, I didn't even realize it's like them drinking, but there's like a whole feast on the table near them
Yeah, they
too.
got like a whole party going on.
Yeah.
And then, oh, okay. So they got items that look like it boosts experience. So yeah, it looks like so with the combat and everything. I'm wondering how much because these are some large numbers. Six. How I don't know how far in the game this is, but you'll have like well. Oh, that's actually kind of a big difference of hit points. They got one over 6,000, but the other's below 3,000. While
Yeah.
I guess ability points usually that a or a parallel for MP in a game and stamina STM. I'm guessing stamina just typical game lingo. Like those look pretty similar, but then the hit points looks like there's a pretty big gap between them. Between I'm guessing tank and glass cannon type of damage dealer.
That's probably why that she counts as like more like a invoke or a summon even. She's like the like yeah, like I said, glass
Right.
cannon where like you hop in and do a lot of damage and hop back out.
So the stats, I am wondering how the stats are going to play out. They don't seem to focus too much on that in the general gameplay. Like on this shot, we have just under 6,000 and still under 3,000 hit points there. So I don't know like how much leveling and everything there's going on, but we even see it looks like they do show on screen a whole bunch of button combinations for your attacks, which is probably that kind of action skill progression it shows was whatever button combination you got going on here with this light attack. Um, I'm guessing these button combos are like, okay, try one of these inputs for your next sequence of attacks or your next action.
Yeah.
So I'd say from the looks of it here, it looks amazing. I would definitely have to experience it first before I made like any kind of judgment on how the menus and the stats worked because the menus and stats do feel a little out of place for what the game looks like. Like it looks like I'm seeing Final Fantasy or JRPG stats, and the description did say that JRPG inspired stats and level ups were in there, but it does now, unless it feeds really well into like your damage and everything. But then again, that can also often create a situation where the game is more like you have to actually grind out your stats to reach certain benchmarks. Like if you go into a late game area and you're not adequately leveled, then no matter how skilled your gameplay is, how much of it is going to come down to you get wiped out in one hit and you have to grind for more hit points becomes the issue.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we do have decades of game development going into this, so it's very possible that they've already taken that into account. That could just be a very like old game mindset that I'm having, where some old games had those difficulty spikes, and newer games might have a better sense of scaling. Maybe the numbers don't mean as much as I think they do.
Yeah.
But with
Uh,
that,
it's
yeah.
also I'm also looking at like some of the stat stuff, and it is like a little confusing. The choices here, like if you look at the seventh screenshot, um, where the stat page is, it says HP max, and I wonder, does that mean like that's the max HP
Oh,
like
that
overall health, or does that mean that it's the max level that that stat can get to?
I'd
'Cause that's
I'd
what
say that's probably your max HP. Like so if you were damaged like this, so the other screen, a few screens down that shows the numbers where our main character has the 6200 and then the
yeah,
um the other character has the 28 out of 2900.
yeah.
So the max would just be that 2900.
Yeah, because it's also AP max and stamina max, but if you look at the screenshot after, it also shows that only some of these things have gained
Right.
any numbers.
And then the other ones force, so you got like your physical attack, your magic attack, your physical and magic defense. Those are pretty standard among a lot of RPGs.
Yeah,
Agility being 56, so that agility is often your movement speed and your turn action speed. With that one I would have to wonder like how does that translate into a real-time combat situation? Like but when you're low in that stat, do you physically move slower? Because in a real time game, that kind of slow movement can really it doesn't necessarily feel good. But all the videos we saw, all the trailer videos we saw, showed very fluid movements and combos going off. So I wonder if the agility stat, if that actually translates into anything in the game, or if that's like
yeah,
a background number where when an attack would hit you, if it's more of like an evasion stat and everything has a percent chance to miss based on your agility.
true. There's
So,
also the possibility it may have to do with the aerial combat and related stuff,
oh
even.
right, like maybe it's how like what kind of airtime you can keep and how high your jump is or something.
Yeah, that's more what I was thinking when
Maybe.
I first thought of it.
Now, obviously, because we're only doing this judgment by the cover, all of this is based solely on what we can see right here on the store page, which the trailer looks great. The only, I would say the trailers, I'm ranking the trailers on an 8 out of 10. Some of the screenshots just feel like the stats in the setting compared to the trailers feel a little confusing. So I think I would bump it to a 7 overall with actually experiencing the game one way or the other could bump it either way, depending on how those stats play out into the game's experience.
I would probably be about the same. I feel like they went very focused on the art style alone, which is
Right,
good, but like I don't see a whole lot of balance as well with the art style versus the gameplay. Like it feels very mobile gamey or even like storybook
right.
like with the world map, it doesn't feel right with the rest of what we're seeing here. But
And
even
I know,
on that and the few scenes I'm seeing, it may just be an art style that I'm not accustomed to,
right.
but or used to when it comes to video games.
And I mean,
But it does
it
feel
makes
very
up a
like
lot.
storybook.
Yeah, it makes up a lot with what looks like the game world, the culture, the narrative that it tries to focus on. So that's getting a lot of points in my book. I
Yeah,
do like that
I feel
they're
like they're nailing the art, but it also
right.
just feels off at the same time
This
for me, and can't place what it is. So I
I
guess
think
let's have
for
a
me it's
shared
mostly
discussion
the
on that.
stat screen feels very disjointed. Um,
That's
I
true too.
I know I compared it to Dust and Elysian Tale as far as how the trailers looked with that combat. Now, Dust and then or Legends of Kenzara, which we reviewed earlier in the month, has a very like side scroller Metroidvania type of exploration and progression, and you unlock more skills in combat as you go without really having to level up. Now, both of those games do have things that you level up, but the points you get from level up are things that boost like your innate combat skills. So instead of having like okay, you're boosting your hit point, strength, dexterity, and magic attacks. It's like, okay, no, when you quote unquote level up in Dust or in Legends of or in Tales of Kenzara, you get basically a point to unlock a perk going into one of your skills. Like for Dust, it would be okay, you get a point that you either like boost your attack speed or your damage with your sword damage, or you get a special skill with the sword, like a new skill with the sword, or in Tails, you would you basically pick whether you're going to unlock a new skill with your with the mask of the moon or the mask of the sun and go
Yeah,
from there, as opposed to having like all of these numerical stats that seem to fit better in like a Final Fantasy kind of game.
yeah. I think my only problem with the art wasn't the art itself. It's just the fact that it feels like the interfaces that I'm seeing for the skill stuff was what was throwing me off, honestly.
Right. Like the art
And the
itself
world
is
map
good. The
perspective.
emblems look nice. The stats the stats is what throws me off entirely.
Yeah.
The
I would say the stats would throw me off. And also the world map, it just doesn't follow the same art
right.
style I was expecting from the rest of it.
And it's not
That
the
we're
first time that I've
seeing.
seen a game that feels a little disjointed where the world map is like, okay, this world map does not like fit the levels feel at all. Like in Super if like Super Mario World has this kind of world map, but the levels are also similarly cartoony where the characters still fit that aesthetic. Whereas
Yeah,
this one, like looking at the world map, for anybody watching on the YouTube, you can see the world map screen here with okay, clearly there's a village here, a village here, there's probably like a forest level going on, but then the very next screenshot shows us what I'm sure is a story moment, and it visually does not fit the world map, and that's the only thing bringing me down right now is that little bit of disjoint and the stats not looking like they fit. Now, maybe I'm entirely wrong about the stats. And if somebody has played this and wants to yell at me in the comments about how wrong I am about about the stats intermingling with the gameplay, by all means, call me out on it. Because,
see, it is really the world map for me because it's not just the fact that the colors are disjointed, but there's so much flow and so much going on that it's not like in like the other screenshots, like with the gameplay screenshots stuff like that. There's so much going on and so much life in it without it being so overly vibrant in your face that when I see the world map seeming so vibrant and feels so open rather than like detailed and
right,
clustered with the right stuff, it's throwing me for such a loop, and I can't get over that. But I'm gonna try and move on from that because it takes away
right.
from the fact that the rest of the game does look fairly good.
Yeah. And I mean, just Moving back, I'm moving on to, or all the way back to the second out of the 15 screenshots
Okay.
where it's showing, like, you see so much going on in the background and the foreground here. We've got apparently a wedding being interrupted. So, huge story beat right there, creation of drama, with the main character down to 1 hit point. So that looks to me like the gameplay probably has some fights that you are not meant to win,
Yep.
and that'll be interrupted by the narrative once you take that beating, a la Mega Man X, Lufia, and the Lufia games did that quite a bit, where you had unwinnable fights or fights that you were not supposed to be able to win because you just get absolutely throttled by the boss. But then the narrative still continues, and here we have, wasn't the gift I was hoping for on my wedding day. We see more going on in the background with guards and panicked villagers and somebody on the ground too. That's just so that their storytelling is on point. It looks like it just
Yeah.
seems like it would probably be better if it was laid out kind of like a Castlevania where you flowed from one area to the next and move things in that, like, 2.5D directional, where you could
Linear. Yeah.
or Paper Mario kind of map exploration where you do have a little bit of the
Yeah.
3D movement going into the background.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, like with the what was it, Super Mario RPG that came back out.
Right.
Because I was reminded that briefly because of the fact, way earlier when we were talking about the ability where it's not where conflict only happens when you get in contact with an enemy, so you can
Right.
avoid
And
certain fights.
the store page did highlight that, where you can avoid monster encounters, but then when you touch an enemy is when the combat instance starts. So if it's
Yeah,
that kind of case, I could see this world playing out very well, where you have space to move around enemies, or you can go and engage them to actually get the fight down.
to level ups. Yeah.
But
Which actually leads me to believe if there's any collectibles in the game that may be like on the different levels and world related stuff, or if it's more like an inventory thing that helps you progress.
right,
Because
the
uh,
inventory
if you-
does seem to have a lot of things with like buffs and crafting applied to it.
yeah, because if you look back at the screenshot number 2, there's like this directional pad at the top left that seems to have different items that you can access.
Right. And it's, instead of being like a Legend of Zelda type of item menu where it's like, oh yeah, click the button to use this important tool, since they have the numbers, that tells me that these are consumables, your healing items, probably quick buffs, where one might give you like a brief movement boost or something.
Yeah, which I gets me to wonder where you would obtain those. Is there like in-game shops? Is there different items
Right.
along the different
Some of the
levels?
screenshots did look like they included some shops, and I'm sure that monsters also drop a healthy amount of consumable items, along with the
Yeah,
crafting menus and everything else going in to try and that it
to
did say that
encourage
there
you to
was
do some
that there were
fights.
cooking recipes and stuff in there to experiment with other
Oh, really?
buffs. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, so there's probably just enough going on with the monsters to encourage you to partake in fights where you would like to, but not overwhelming it to every you get fight after fight after fight. Can't really progress through the lore like like one player may
right.
want.
Where
There's a
it's
good
like it has
balance
like
by
it
that
does
factor.
look like it has a nice balance between the action and the story moments, where
Hmm.
the fights look engaging and look like they would be something I want to play and engage in.
Yeah,
Um,
or learn
depending
the
depending on
combinations.
how the stats interact, it could give you, like, if the fights feel that good to play, maybe if you do need some level grinding, maybe the action based and combo and experimenting with combos and skills might make grinding more bearable, because that's the thing with old games, where you basically just mash the A button to try and get through fights so that you get your big numbers like you need them. But if the game is encouraging you to experiment and try out more things, that could make up for maybe what looks like a game that might have some grinding to it.
Yeah,
Whereas this way, if you're experimenting and everything, and maybe there's even like ways to try and speed run it if you're into that kind of thing.
yeah. I also want to make note that something completely unrelated, but just came to my attention. There is definitely a skill gap further down, as we noticed with the HP, how big the difference was. But if you look at screenshot 3, they're relatively about the same. They're relatively close in their HP stat. So it looks like as you progress through the game, it's either it could be one of two things. It could be the stats are very important to one character over the other, or one character is like the main, and the other one's more like a
Right.
glass cannon, like you said.
I would say either that or like here it's showing 1698 compared to 1156. That's definitely closer together than the later screenshots where we saw like 6,000 and 3,000 being their hit
Yeah.
point thresholds, which that could be like maybe one levels up more, or it could just be that the one character has that higher base hit point pool while the other is, more of the glass cannon. If they're supposed to pop in as a support, maybe the low hit points means that they're vulnerable while they're on screen, but then when they finish their attack, they'll pop off. They'll pop off the screen or something. Because this one also shows her having more ability points than our male character
Oh
here.
yeah.
He has higher stamina and hit points, but she has more ability points, so her attacks are probably more costly and devastating for the sake of combos. If I'm reading this right, and it's that kind of Marvel versus Capcom kind of thing, or maybe the characters are interchangeable, where like if it does allow you to play as both and swap between them, maybe it's the kind of thing where you have to play more carefully with her, but she can do a lot more damage in a short period of time or something. But it's like a risk reward kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is all guessing and speculation based on the
The
numbers that
store
we do
page.
see.
Yeah, and all that we have to judge from, which actually surprised me. We did a lot of talking so far for something with such, you know, uh, based on just the cover. I've
Right.
noticed.
It definitely has a lot of interesting stuff to it. I think ultimately I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10 here, just for some of that disjointed stuff. It could easily bump into an 8 if I were to give this game a try. If I can keep my eye on it, see if it goes on sale or something. And if that's the case, trying this out, maybe getting absolutely throttled by what they're saying is some trial and error gameplay that has you experimenting, could actually be a fun experience.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be a lot of fun too. I'm gonna give it a solid 8 right off the bat. As much as the world map disjoints me a little bit, I haven't done, and I also have like basically no experience in fighting combo games. It intrigues me a lot, and I really want to give it a go if it goes on sale or something like that, or if I feel or if I find it on maybe console, because I feel like this would be a game I would play on my systems rather than my PC.
Right.
Uh,
I I
but
I think I did check the Switch eShop and I didn't see it on there, but if it gets some console
it,
releases or if I keep my eyes out on there, it does, yeah, it
I
does say
can.
available PC and Steam. So maybe
I
they
mean,
are working on.
worst case, I can just plug in my Xbox controller to my PC and play it
Yeah, I
that
mean,
way.
I
So
keep my controller on for PC gaming because mouse and keyboard works for very specific kinds of games for me. I need a controller for most things.
yeah, yeah. I'm also accustomed to my controller. I'm only newer to PC.
Right.
I'm getting back into PC gaming a little bit, but I very much grew up with like the Wii and Xbox and PlayStation. So, but yeah, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Solid. It looks great. I have a few minor issues with it, but overall, I don't think those take away from it too much. It looks like it'd be a fun game to play.
Right. So far, now a quick little look at the developers, Kiro'o Games wiki page. It looks like Aurion Legacy of the Kori-Odan might be the only game they have under their belt right now. But considering that okay, it actually came out in 2016.
Yeah,
Now that
that's
I'm
why
looking at
I'm a
that
little
again,
surprised by that.
so the game is not exactly new. Has me wondering like if they do have any kind of work on the shelf for it, or if this was kind of like their one hurrah that they got going.
Yeah.
But it it looks good. I could see if they made some kind of a follow up, but considering that it has now been almost a decade, I don't know that Kuro'o Games is. I don't know if they're still working on anything else. But it definitely looks like something. I would like to see if they have anything else in the works going on, because
Yeah, I'd like to see if they have any other
supporting some
budget.
indie developers is always going to be something that helps the industry as a whole.
For sure, for sure.
All right. I think yeah, I got my notes off there. Anything else to go on?
No, I just realized there's so many more games out there that I need to try out because
Yeah.
my experiences to compare to are very limited.
And that's a kicker. Like there's so many games out there that like trying to wade through that absolute ocean of content is pretty much impossible. So you got to like find always, looking at recommendations and finding things.
I feel like I should start up like trying a game in every genre soon, just get a feel for something,
Yeah.
and find new experiences. Because I'm not gonna be able to compare too many more things to anything else to really make a fair judgment.
I
With
have
the lack
I
of
have a little bit
experience I
of a
have.
shelf and a backlog where I should really give at least like maybe an hour or so to each game just to kind of get an early feel for it, just so I have more comparisons to
Yeah.
draw.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everybody that's joined us today. I know this
Yes.
episode's gone a
Woo.
little longer than some, but Aurion really does look like something that's worth trying. I know I harped on the stats and the map a little bit, but the stats really require experiencing the game to see how much it actually adds or takes away from the experience. I can't really put too much of an accurate judgment on it because that's the kind of thing you have to experience in the map. That the map, like, yes, I know I harped on the map being disjointed, but honestly, if that is the worst thing about the game, is the overworld map being a little like out of tone, then it's like if the rest of the game is still a good experience, I can deal with a funny looking world map.
Exactly.
Yep.
There are definitely worse things out there.
Absolutely.